Fear. 7 types of fear. Outwitting the devil. Today, we got a powerful message as we break down fear and Napoleon Hill's book, Outwitting the Devil. Great book, man. I read that one about 20 years ago when I first got into, when I read the book, Think and Grow Rich. That one's also written by Napoleon Hill. That's another great book. Definitely want to get both of those or read both of those if you haven't. Nowadays, they have a lot of this stuff on audio where you can pick up the audio book. You don't have to read a traditional book. You can actually read an audio book that you just, while you're driving, just tune in, just listen. So with AI and the internet, no excuses. Everybody's able to expand their consciousness, get into a deeper level of awareness. But today, very important message. I introduced my book on the number 3 or the 7 types of fear, and breaking down the devil's number 1 weapon that he used against everybody. You know, when you're talking about, like most of us, well, not most, but a lot of folk believe, we got different beliefs, and that's cool. That's what the world is all about. We want to break down the 7 types of fear. The 7 types of fear that keeps you here. The 7 types of fear that keeps us trapped. The 7 types of fear that limit our ability to move forward in life. The first type of fear is poverty. Fear of poverty, that's the granddaddy of them all. That's number 1. Second type of fear is fear of death. That's a big one as well. The enemy uses that to keep us trapped. Next type of fear is the fear of loss. What's going on, Sister Ellen? How you doing, my sister? The fear of loss. You know, that's a big one as well. I'm going to turn my camera around so that way you guys can read the text in the back. That's the second type of fear. Poverty, fear of criticism, fear of ignorance, fear of sickness, fear of loneliness, fear of rejection, fear of old age, and as I said at the beginning, fear of death. So those are the 7 types of fear that we want to break down. Really want to spend some time breaking down the difference between right and correct, because that's what's going on with the religion. Religion is right, but it's not correct. As we break down and delve into, I want to play a little clip from the book. Again, you can go online, you get it for free. The book entitled Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And man, I know most of us. Sister Ellen, have you read that one already or listened to it? Again, I've read it and listened to it on audio. I highly recommend it. Man, you're talking about transformative. Let me plug up my phone here. You're talking about transformative. Totally changed my life. Because just like the book Think and Grow Rich would have helped me to understand that, wow, just like the Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Also, outwitting the devil. Fear. Second Timothy 1:7. God's not giving us a spirit of fear. So if God didn't give us a spirit of fear, where did it come from? So all of this stuff that I talk about in every show, since I've been doing this for 30 years, comes straight out of the Bible. So I'm not making this up. I mean, I'm not lying. I'm not trying to con. I'm not trying to manipulate. I'm not here to try to, get you to buy anything. Again, I do have my books. Again, everything that I talk about. Again, now a lot of the people go online and use ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity and all of the AI stuff. And so a lot of people don't really consult consultants and teachers anymore, because now we can Google everything, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with AI. I use it too. But there is a space and there is a place for people like myself who spend their entire life researching this information. Again, I've written well over 1,000 books, man. I've been in this space for a long time, 30 years, and it's important because these 7 things: fear, religion, tradition, man, it just totally prevents us from thinking. It prevents us from getting outside of the box. And this clip that I'm about to play for you today is very important. that you really listen to what, and I'm going to stop it here and there and kind of interject Brother Brandon, what's up, my brother? How you doing, man? Good to see you, Brother Brandon. Sister Ella, man, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And, man, this one is near to my heart because fear keeps you here. Fear, as you all know, man, fear is a powerful thing. And as we're going to break down, there's 7 different types that I want to get into. I need a little bit more lemon. I mean, not lemon, honey. And we'll do that later. But when we talk about fear, man, we're talking about the devil's, and the devil is the lower self. It's the ego. It's the part of you that you identify with. We talk about identity swapping. We talk about, again, identity matching, identity transferring. So all problems is a lack of identity. All at the base and at the core. That's why I do Dear Canary reports. That's why I've been doing them for years, because I got to get people to see the importance of drifting. So in the book, let me get it all queued up. In the book, Outwitting the Devil, he talks about drifting. The guy who's in it, now the book is about the guy he's interviewing the devil. Now it's a fictitious book, obviously. You know, he didn't interview the devil, but it's like the other book, the other movie that I just saw, but that's another study for another time, where the guy is basically, kind of interviewing the devil. But in the book, where he's interviewing the devil talks about his #1 method to destroy humanity. And you gotta, I'm gonna play it for you, but you gotta tune in. You gotta listen. And he talks about drifting. He says that drifting, which is the process of living life without purpose, and you just drift, you roam. Remember, all roads, remember in my book, The Vatican Control, and I broke this down, all roads lead through Rome, but it's ROAM, where you just drifting. You just bumping around because you have no clarity of purpose. You have no discipline, pattern, or habit. You have no life-sustaining pattern. Remember, we talked about in Module 1 of the life management system, the negative habit pattern must be replaced with a life-sustaining pattern through behavior modification, which takes you to Module 4, which is wealth. Then 5 is health, then wisdom, and then relationships. But we got to deal with the first 3. And so most people that I talk to, even people that have their Dear Canary report, people who purchased the life management system, they still struggle. They have not been able to change their identity because of what we're about to express today. What you're about to hear today. This is the reason why in my 30 plus years of doing this, Sister Ellen, 30 plus years of doing this, Sister Ellen, it still is the #1 reason why, and again, people can't move forward. And it's because of this, what I call negative thinking, and this hypnotic rhythm that brings about, again, the inability to think independently. Fear is a paralysis through analysis, but it's the result of an inferior complex because we don't have a proper self-image. We don't see ourselves, the way God designed the self. And so that fear is false evidence appearing real. We all have heard that acronym before, but fear is even deeper than that. Fear keeps you here. Fear keeps you near. So the devil's #1 weapon is fear. And now look, this book was written back in 1938. 1938, Outwitting the Devil. That's what we're going to be kind of focusing on. Because remember, my whole life has been about purpose. Because Brother Brandon, as you know, my brother, man, I remember that when I met you, man, in the Bahamas, man, and you got a chance to take me around the island, man, and show me your family, met your family, and we got a chance to hang out, Brother Brandon. Man, that was a life-changing experience for myself and for my family, just to meet you and your family, man, and got a chance to hang out and connect with people of like minds, brother. It's very rare where we're able to connect. No, we ain't planning nothing illegal, no ego. We didn't bump heads, man. It was like we've known each other all our life. We were kindred spirits because there was no fear. Like there was no reason for me to be afraid. A lot of people say, man, you just went off to a whole another place. Really, it was outside the U.S. I didn't really know you. That's the first time I knew you from online. But I had a peace in my spirit. I knew you because we were able to vibe. We was able to connect, man. And that was powerful, man. I still remember that, man. And it's so important because this day, because there's so much inauthenticity. People are not authentic anymore. Not that they ever were, but now because of artificial intelligence, being authentic is even harder. And so it's so important to connect with people of like mind. That's why I always do lives. Sure, I may do an avatar. I may get into some of the AI stuff too, but I will never ever stop being me. I will never ever stop being authentic. I will never ever stop talking about real life experiences. You'll never hear me talking about stuff that I have not personally lived and personally done. I came out of a religious cult. I came out of strict religion. We went to church. It seemed like, when I was talking with my brothers and sisters, I just had an uncle who transitioned a couple of days ago, and we were just talking about how we were raised again. I got a chance to see one of my older brothers, my stepbrother, who I hadn't seen in like 5 years. Went to his house. We hung out. And we were reminiscing about some of the stuff that created the trauma that I talked about yesterday with yesterday's book. And trauma for 30 years was my mama. Trauma was my mama, and I lived in drama because I didn't have the emotional capacity to process my feelings. I didn't know how to process my anger. My mom died when I was 10, 11 years old. And from that date up until, from all through middle school and high school, all I did was fight. I went straight into the Marines and I got paid to fight. And I loved it, man. I got paid to hurt people. Then I went into law enforcement and corrections, and every job I had, they gave me a title. They gave me a uniform. They gave me a badge. They gave me an identity. But it was all power. It was ego. It was fear-based. It's like, you do what I say or you get this. It was all intimidation. It was no love, Brother Brandon. It was no love, Sister Ellen. It was all fear-based. It was all power. And so we live in a world, and we see with the current administration, there is this intimidation factor. There is fear. It's like, man, if you don't go along with the narrative, then something could happen to you. That's the devil's system. That's the low vibrational system. There's no love, joy, peace, gentleness, meekness, and self-control. That's why what we're talking about is so important today. Because most people can't identify these 7 types of fear. 7 types of fear. Again, I break all of this down inside the book. But for today, I need you to understand that the top 3 is poverty. Number 1 is poverty. Everybody know that. Number 2 is sickness or ill health. And then number 3 is death, because nobody knows what happens after death. And so the enemy uses those 3. The enemy uses poverty, the enemy uses sickness, and the enemy uses death. But I know, especially having to process and deal with when my youngest daughter passed, thankfully I had just written the book right before that event happened. Death, where is your sting? Grave, where is your victory? It's like God had already prepared me for my daughter's transition before she transitioned. My daughter prepared me as well, because she kept telling me certain things. And every time we make those long trips that I was driving over, and I didn't even know why, but I had took time out, and I had made sure that I made that spending time with my daughter number 1 on my list. And it was even causing issues in my marriage. But I intuitively knew, Brother Brandon. That's why if you tune into God, if you really tune into source, I ain't talking about religion, man. I'm talking about source. I'm talking about that inner voice, that still small voice. If you really, really get out of spookism, if you get out of fear and you get into source, not necessarily faith, because even faith is dangerous. Because faith, some people put faith above facts. And then that becomes dangerous, because that faith should be based in fact. It should be rooted and grounded in some type of a evidence-based. Now, I'm not talking about where there's a place for faith. Don't get it twisted. I understand. All I'm saying is that your faith also should contain cosmology, theology, and biology. It should contain some facts. Because again, faith without works is dead. Faith without facts is dead. So we need some facts to go along with our faith. So we're going to pick up this audio here. Go to a website you love. I'm going to play it from, there's a lot of different audio books on YouTube for Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. This one is a guy called T.Y. Buggy. I don't know who he is. I just, again, I like the version or the way by which the audio part or the voice aspect of it, let me turn this down, that, in other words, I like the way the reader, because again, there's different readers, there's different audio books, there's different versions of this book online. I like this particular, whoop, that's kind of close. So I like this particular one. So that's a guy, this young brother here, again, don't know the brother, but he does a great job of articulating through the book, Outwitting the Devil. Now, we're not going to listen to the whole thing because again, this one is like 44 minutes. But if you Google this and if you do some research online, you will find the whole book is like about 3 hours. It's a good 3 hours long. Excuse me. So we're going to skip up to where I was listening in around about the 20-minute mark.
That is interesting.
So really tune in and listen to what he's saying. I'm going to shut up so you can listen.
Rockefeller money is being used to isolate and conquer diseases of the physical body in all parts of the world. Disease has always been one of my most effective weapons. The fear of ill health is second only to the fear of poverty. The Rockefeller money is uncovering new secrets of nature in 100 different directions, all of which are designed to help men take and keep possession of their own minds. It is encouraging new and better methods of feeding, clothing, and housing people. It is wiping out the slums in the large cities, the places where my favorite allies are found. It is financing campaigns for better government and helping to wipe out dishonesty in politics. It is helping to set higher standards in business practice and encouraging businessmen to conduct business by the golden rule. And that is not doing my cause any good.
What about these boys and girls who are said to be on the road to hell? Are you in control of them?
Well, I can answer that question only with yes and no. I have corrupted the minds of the young by teaching them to drink and smoke. But they have me baffled through their tendency to think for themselves.
You say you have corrupted the minds of the young people with liquor and cigarettes. I can understand how liquor might destroy the power of independent thought, but do not see what cigarettes have to do with helping your cause.
You may not know it, but cigarettes break down the power of persistence. They destroy the power of endurance. They destroy the ability to concentrate. They deaden and undermine the imaginative faculty.
Very
and
interesting.
help in other ways to keep people from using their minds most effectively. Do you know I have millions of people, young and old of both sexes, who smoke 2 packages of cigarettes a day? That means I have millions of people who are gradually destroying their power of resistance. One day I shall add to their habit of cigarette smoking other thought-destroying habits, until I shall have gained control of their minds. Habits come in pairs, triplets, and quadruplets. Any habit which weakens one's willpower invites a flock of its relatives to move in and take possession of the mind. The cigarette habit not only lowers the power of resistance and discourages persistence, but it invites looseness in other human relationships.
I never thought that cigarettes were a tool of destruction, Your Majesty, but your explanation throws a different light on the subject. How many converts to the habit do you now claim?
I am proud of my record. Millions are now victims, and the number is increasing daily. Soon I shall have most of the world indulging in the habit. In thousands of families, I now have followers of the habit, including every member of the family. Very young boys and girls are beginning to take up the habit. They are learning how to smoke by observing their parents and older brothers and sisters.
Which do you consider to be your greater tool for gaining control of human minds, cigarettes or liquor?
Without hesitation, I would say cigarettes. Once I get a young person to join my 2-package-a-day club, I have no trouble in inducing that person to take on the habit of liquor, overindulgence of sex, and all other related habits which destroy independence of thought and action.
Now, I find
Your
that very
Majesty,
interesting.
when I began this interview, I had you.
I find that, and we'll pause here because he pauses here as
this
well.
book is
But
pretty old,
when we look at cigarette smoking, like I know a lot of people that smoke cigarette, especially back in the day. Let me pause just again. Sorry about that. That smoke cigarettes, and I never really tied that into, you know, I know a lot of people that drink, then also sex. So he talks about three things: cigarette smoking, alcohol, and then sex, as a way by which to introduce you to drifting. So he gets into that aspect of the video, and he talks about that. And you can listen to it later on as well. But I want to highlight how important something as simple. Now, we can also get into the 7 deadly sins. You know, when I talk about inside my book, the 7 seals or the 7 S's, where I break down also gluttony, and we get into some of those things that are used as kind of gateway drugs. But this is a gateway into control, into getting you into a space where you are drifting. Remember, fear is used by the enemy, for lack of a better term, to get you into a place where you become a drifter. Drifting, according to the book, Outwitting the Devil, is living your life without thinking you're rich, a definite chief aim. A definite chief aim is what I do for a living. Purpose. So what purpose is, the great Dr. Miles Monroe, one of my mentors, also back in the day, pastor I was with, and it was Pastor Vaughn. Shout out to Pastor Vaughn as well, to assist me with finding purpose. Now, again, they couldn't tell me what my purpose was, but they set me on the path to develop the life management system and the Dear Canoe report, which now that I have artificial intelligence, I've created what I call a solar. I'm not going to really change the name because I've already branded Dear Canoe, but I've added and I've revamped the Dear Canoe report. So for everybody who has the old Dear Canoe report, I would encourage you to get the new updated report that has all of the solar ID, just because I'm able to now connect people with their constellation, the star seed and the star system based upon the blood type, which gives you a deeper meaning and a deeper understanding to cancel out drifting. Drifting is aimlessness. Drifting is living your life without certainty, living your life without clarity, and living your life without confidence. Because without those three things, what happens is you drift. That you roam around, you ponder, you consider other things that are really not a part of what God has designed and gifted you to be, to do, and to have. Other things become important, and you start considering things that you normally wouldn't do, you find yourself doing. So the whole purpose, again, of the life management system, everything I've been doing over the years, has just been expanded. It's just been amplified. So I want to play another part of Outwitting the Devil that help you understand why we have to be cautious of this thing called religion. We have to be able to think for ourselves, because what as you will hear, man, that's what got me. What got me was fear. Fear of this thing that we call hell. Especially when it's introduced as a child, the way it was introduced to me. As an adult, even if it exists. So I'm not here to debate whether it exists or doesn't. I'm here to talk to you about the psychological effects, what it does to the brain. What happens to your brain when you introduce this construct that says, as we was kids, it was the world is coming to an end. When I was a child, I was told that. I did the same thing to my kids, my 2 oldest kids. By the time my middle daughter came around, I finally was starting to wake up and come out of religion, tradition, fear. Because I read 2 Timothy 1:7. I'm still waiting for a reverend, doctor, or bishop to explain to me if the Bible says God has not given us a spirit of fear. He gave us a spirit of love, power, and a sound mind. I'm paraphrasing. You should read it for yourself. 2 Timothy 1:7. So if it's in the Bible, excuse me, and we are all Bible thumpers, most of us, especially most of us melanated folk, please explain to me why we still teach fear. After you now, again, call me, text me, one of you high vibrational Negroes that have graduated from some historically black college, please, who went to the seminary, please explain to me Hebrews 6:1. Please, I'm all ears. I got big ears too. I'm all ears. Right, Brother Brandon? We all ears, right, brother? I'm all ears, bro. Explain Hebrews 6 to me. Hebrews chapter 6, verse 1, 2, and 3. But it tells us specifically what not to teach. If you want to go to perfection, it says, if you want to go on to perfection. Now, I've taught this. I've been teaching for 30 years. I ain't met a Negro yet or a non-Negro that explained to me using reason and logic with evidence, cosmologically, theologically, and bodily. I know what it does to the dorsal vagal nerve that we talked about yesterday. I know that trauma is probably your mama, not you personally, but people you know. So I know that we are under trauma-induced mind control. And the reason I know that because I lived 30, really 40 years with trauma-induced mind control. So I know all of the tricks, bro. I know all of the dark psychology. I know all of the Machiavellian dark psychology tricks because it was done to me, and then I did it to my children, and I did it to other people. Anybody that knows me knows, man, I can bring my first wife on here, and now ex-wife, she'll tell you. And the people that knew me back in the day. So, Sister Ellen, those were some dark days, Sister Ellen. It's by the grace and mercy of God that I'm here, revealing, explaining, illuminating, simplifying. Fear keeps you here because it collapses your ANS, the automatic nervous system. It puts you in fear, fight, flight, fawn, and flee. Fawn, the baby deer stage. I was in the fawn. Now, a FAWN. When a baby deer is afraid, it just drops. Tunnel vision. The reticular activating system takes over. Cognitive dissonance. You lose the ability to use frontal lobes, so your PFC, your prefrontal cortex, shuts off. The amygdala and our hippocampus, this is all neuroscience. This is all biologically proven. This is why they slaughter animals in a state of fear to release that adrenochrome into their blood so the meat is tainted. That's why the Jewish culture use kosher. They don't let the blood test the meat. They overstand. They don't kill the animal in a state of fear because they understand. Just like in the movie Monsters Inc., they put it in the movie. But yet we still, 99.999% of the Cretans that I know are afraid of the devil. They are afraid of, just pick anything, man. Everything. It's all fear-based. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. Remember that there's a big difference between right and correct. It is right to fear, but it's not correct because of what it does to the brain. It could be right, but you could be right, but you ain't going to be rich because it's not correct, because it doesn't operate according to neuroscience. It doesn't operate according to universal spiritual laws. This is a man-made system. This is a man-made construct. It's very important because as you will see, let's get back over to the video, Outwitting the Devil. And again, you want to listen to this entire thing when you get an opportunity, when you get a chance.
Now
we're
just playing from your own brazen confession that you destroyed
small
their
clip.
right to freedom of thought and caused them to go through a living hell on earth. What do you have to say to that?
I get what I want by exercising self-control. It is not so good for my own business, but I suggest you emulate me instead of criticizing me. You call yourself a thinker, and you are. Otherwise, you would never have forced this interview on me. But you will never be the sort of thinker that frightens me unless you gain and exercise greater control over your own emotions.
Let us get away from personalities. I came here to learn more about you, not to discuss myself. Please go ahead and tell me of the many tricks you have devised for gaining control of the human mind. What is your most powerful weapon just now?
The most powerful weapon.
Gaza's population
Sorry about that.
is on the brink.
Y'all know how these ads just pop up.
That is a difficult question to answer.
Gaining power over your own emotions. I feel like that has been like the word of my channel this month.
So that's the guy that's playing it. Let's jump back over to the...
War. If I can start the world to killing on a wholesale basis, I shall be able to put into operation my favorite device for mind control. It is what you call mass fear. I used this device to bring about the other World War in 1914. I used it to bring about the economic depression in 1929. And if my opposition had not double-crossed me, I would now be in possession of every man, woman, and child in the world. You can see for yourself how near I came to world domination. The thing I have been struggling to attain for thousands of years.
Yes, I see your point. Who wouldn't? You are a very ingenious manipulator of the minds of people. Is your devilish business carried on only through people of high position and great influence?
Oh, no. I use the minds of people in all walks of life. As a matter of fact, I prefer the type of person who makes no pretense of thinking. I can manipulate that sort of person without difficulty. I could not control 98% of the people of the world if all people were skilled in thinking for themselves.
Bam.
I'm interested in the welfare of those people whom you claim to control. Therefore, I wish you to tell me all of the tricks by which you enter and control their minds. I want a complete confession from you. So begin with your cleverest trick.
Now listen closely.
This is suicide you are forcing on me, but I am helpless. So settle down, and I will place in your hands the weapon by which millions of your fellow earthbound will defend themselves against me.
Tell me first about your most clever trick, the one you use to ensnare the greatest number of people.
If you force me to give away this secret, it will mean my loss of millions of people now living, and still greater numbers of millions as yet unborn. I beg of you, permit me to pass this one question unanswered.
So His Majesty the Devil fears a mere humble earthbound creature? Is that right?
It is not right, but it is true. You have no right to rob me of my most necessary tool of trade. For millions of years I have dominated earthbound creatures through fear and ignorance. Now you come along and would destroy my use of these weapons by forcing me to tell how I use them. Do you not realize that you will break my grip on every person who heeds this confession you are forcing from me?
Yep, everybody pay attention.
Mercy? Have you no sense of humor? Have you no sportsmanship?
Stop stalling and start confessing. Who are you to ask mercy of one whom you would destroy if you could? Who are you to talk of sportsmanship and a sense of humor? You, who by your own confession have set up a living hell on earth, where you punish innocent people through their fears and ignorance. As for minding my own business, that is just what I'm doing when I force you to tell how you control people through their own minds. My business, if it can be called a business, is helping to unlock the doors of the self-made prisons in which men and women are confined because of the fears you have planted in their minds.
My greatest weapon over human beings consists of two secret principles by which I gain control of their minds. I will speak first of the principle of habit, through which I silently enter the minds of people. By operating through this principle, I establish, I wish I could avoid using this
Negative
word,
habits.
the habit of drifting. When a person begins to drift on any subject, he is headed straight toward the gates of what you earthbound call hell.
Describe all the ways in which you induce people to drift. Define the word and tell us exactly what you mean by it.
I can best define the word drift by saying that people who think for themselves never drift, while those who do little or no thinking for themselves are drifters. A drifter is one who permits himself to be influenced and controlled by circumstances outside of his own mind. He would rather let me occupy his mind and do his thinking than go to the trouble of thinking for himself.
Boom.
A drifter is one who accepts whatever life throws in his way without making a protest or putting up a fight. He doesn't know what he wants from life and spends all of his time getting just that. A drifter has lots of opinions, but they are not his own.
Wow.
Most of them are supplied by me. A drifter is one who is too lazy mentally to use his own brain. That is the reason I can take control of people's thinking and plant my own ideas in their minds.
I think I understand what a drifter is. Tell me the exact habits of people by which you induce them to drift through life. Start by telling me when and how you first gained control of a person's mind.
My control over the
This
mind
is
of a human
important.
being is obtained while the person is young. Sometimes I lay the foundation for my control of a mind before the owner of it is born, by manipulating the minds of that person's parents.
Boom.
Sometimes I go further back than this and prepare people for my control through what you earthbound call physical heredity.
General,
You see, therefore, I have two approaches to the
generational
mind of a
curses.
person.
Yes. Go on, and describe these two doors by which you enter and control the minds of human beings.
As I have stated, I help to bring people into your world with weak brains by giving to them before birth as many as possible of the weaknesses of their ancestors. You call this principle physical heredity. After people are born, I make use of what you earthbound call environment as a means of controlling them. This is where the principle of habit enters. The mind is nothing more than the sum total of one's habits. One by one, I enter the mind and establish habits, which lead finally to my absolute domination of the mind.
Tell me of the most common habits by which you control the minds of people.
That is one of my cleverest tricks. I enter the minds of people through thoughts which they believe to be their own. Those most useful to me are fear, superstition, avarice, greed, lust, revenge, anger, vanity, and plain laziness. Through one or more of these, I can enter any mind, at any age. But I get my best results when I take charge of a mind while it is young, before its owner has learned how to close any of these 9 doors. Then I can set up habits which keep the doors ajar forever.
I'm catching on to your
9
methods.
doors.
Now, let us go back to the habit of drifting. Tell us all about that habit, since you say it is your cleverest trick in controlling the minds of people.
As I said before, I start people drifting during their youth. I induce them to drift through school without knowing what occupation they wish to follow in life. Here I catch the majority of people. Habits are related. Drift in one direction and soon you will be drifting in all directions. I also use environmental habits to give me a definite grip on my victims.
I see. You make it your business to train children in the habit of drifting by inducing them to go through school without aim or purpose. Now, tell me of some of your other
No
tricks
aim
with
and no
which you
purpose.
cause people to become drifters.
Well, my second best trick in developing the habit of drifting is one that I put into operation with the aid of parents and public school teachers and religious instructors.
Here we
I
go.
warn you not to force me to mention this trick. Do not disclose this trick. If you do so, you will be hated by my coworkers who help me use this trick. If you publish this confession in book form, your book will be barred from the public schools. It will be blacklisted by most of the religious leaders. It will be hidden from children by many parents. The newspapers will not dare to give reviews of your book. Millions of people will hate you for writing the book. In fact, no one will like you or your book except those who think. And you know how very few there are of this sort.
This
My
is one of
advice
the
to you is to
reasons.
let me skip the description of
This is one of the reasons why a lot of the stuff that I write don't get a lot of love or a lot of play. Out of all the books and all the stuff that I've done over the years, a lot of this stuff should be #1 booksellers or sellers. But because I revealed this same secret that I learned 30 years ago when I read this book, it's very, very, very important. What you're about to hear is extremely, extremely important, difficult because it attacks the foundation, especially in colored and melanated people's culture. This strikes at the foundation of our entire culture and our entire reality.
my second best trick.
So, for my own good, you wish to withhold the description of your second best trick. No one will like my book except those who think, eh? Very well. Go ahead and answer.
You'll regret this, Mr. Earthbound, but the joke is on you. By this mistake of yours, you will divert attention from me to yourself. My co-workers, of whom there are millions, will forget about me and hate you for uncovering my methods.
Never mind about me. Tell me all about this second best trick of yours with which you induce people to drift with you to hell.
My second best trick is not second at all. It is first. It is first because without it, I never could gain control of the minds of the youths. Parents, school teachers, religious instructors, and many other adults unknowingly serve my purpose by helping me to destroy in children the habit of thinking for themselves. They go about their work in various ways, never suspecting what they are doing to the minds of children or the real cause of the children's mistakes.
I can hardly believe you, Your Majesty. I've always believed that children's best friends were those closest to them, their parents, their school teachers, and their religious instructors. Where would children go for dependable guidance if not to those who have charge of them?
That is where my cleverness comes in. There is the exact explanation of how I control 98% of the people of the world. I take possession of people during their youth, before they come into possession of their own minds, by using those who are in charge of them. I especially need the help of those who give children their religious instruction, because it is here that I break down independent thought and start people on the habit of drifting, by confusing their minds with unprovable ideas concerning a world of which they know nothing. It is here also that I plant in the minds of children the greatest of all fears, the fear of hell.
Boom.
I understand that it is easy for you to frighten children with threats of hell, but how do you continue to make them fear you and your hell after they grow up and learn to think for themselves?
Children grow up, but they do not always learn to think for themselves. Once I capture the mind of a child through fear, I weaken that child's ability to reason and to think for himself, and that weakness goes with the child all through life.
Is that not taking unfair advantage of a human being by contaminating his mind before he comes into full possession of it?
Everything is fair that I can use to further my ends. I have no foolish limitations of right and wrong. Might is right with me. I use every known human weakness to gain and keep control of the human mind.
I understand your devilish nature. Now, let us get back to further discussion of your methods of inducing people to drift to hell here on earth. From your confession, I see that you take charge of children while their minds are young and pliable. Tell me more of how you use parents, teachers, and religious leaders to ensnare people into drifting.
One of my favorite tricks is to coordinate the efforts of parents and religious instructors so they work together in helping me to destroy the children's power to think for themselves. I use many religious instructors to undermine the courage and power of independent thought of children by teaching them to fear me. But I use parents to aid the religious leaders in this great work of mine.
How do parents help religious leaders destroy their children's power to think for themselves? I never heard of such a monstrosity.
I accomplish this through a very clever trick. I cause the parents to teach their children to believe as the parents do in connection with religion, politics, marriage, and other important subjects. In this way, as you can see, when I gain control of the mind of a person, I can easily perpetuate the control by causing that person to help me fasten it upon the minds of his offspring.
In what other ways do you use parents to convert children into drifters?
I cause children to become drifters by following the example of their parents, most of whom I have already taken over and bound eternally to my cause.
Boom.
In some parts of the world, I gain mastery over children's minds and subdue their willpower in exactly the same way that men break and subdue animals of lower intelligence.
Wow.
It makes no difference to me how a child's will is subdued, as long as it fears something. I will enter its mind through that fear and limit the child's power to think independently.
See, as long as you fear something, notice that three-step process of, number one, the inability to think for oneself. Number two, because you can't think for yourself because it happened to you really when you was a kid. And then it taps into the fact that you can't, if you don't think for yourself, and then your parents are reinforcing what you are hearing from the reverend, the doctor, and the bishop that is based upon fear, it stifles your ability. It stifles your ability to really process information using reason and logic, which gets into Hosea 4:6. My people perish for the inability to think for oneself, the inability to process information. There's transformative information, and then there's informational information. It's this transformative information that is, if it's rooted and grounded in fear, it transforms you into an individual that doesn't have the ability to think for oneself. So you never question the nature of your reality. You never question the people in authority. You never question your parents. You never question your tradition. You do exactly what I did for 30 plus years. That's why I know what I'm talking about. I'm not here to try to convince anybody. I'm not here to try to change or convert anybody. I really could care less because I figured it out and I got out. So it's up to you now for you to figure it out and for you to get out. And the only way for you to figure it out is for you to over and understand, start asking questions, because it's right there in front of you. The truth is right there. We just afraid, why do we do what we do? Because it doesn't produce results. It's easy. You can just tell 2 plus 2 is not equaling 4. Because if, again, those 7 fears are existence, the poverty, the ill health, loss of love or being alone, what was the other one? Old age, death, fear of rejection. All of these are fears that can be processed if we have the right information. So there's no reason to fear. Because the Bible tells us God's not giving us the spirit of fear. So why do we do it? So let's wrap it up with the last piece of the puzzle here.
Yes. Accurate thought is death to me. I cannot exist in the minds of those who think accurately.
Accurate thought is death.
Thinking as long as they think in terms of fear, discouragement, hopelessness, and destructiveness. When they begin to think in constructive terms of faith, courage, hope, and definiteness of purpose, they immediately become allies of my opposition and are therefore lost to me.
I'm beginning to understand how you gain control of the minds of children through the help of their parents and religious instructors, but I do not see how the school teachers help you in this damnable work.
School teachers help me gain control of the minds of children, not so much by what they teach the children, as because of what they do not teach them. The entire public school system is so administered that it helps my cause by teaching children almost everything except how to use their own minds and think independently.
Wow. As old as this book is,
he stops here too, because this is very.
School still does that.
As he's breaking down too, this is extremely important because, as you can see, man, like the inability to think for oneself. I'm not saying that we got to go out and, be disruptive or be disrespectful or like I never attack a person's belief system, man. You have the right to be, the right to believe, the right to do, as long as you're not hurting and harming and defrauding me or someone else that I know, then boo-boo, do you. But it's extremely important that if you are serious about connecting with God or with Source, about operating outside of fear. I know that fear is out there and there's things that we should be aware of, but there should not be things that cripple, that prevent you from living your life and moving forward in love, joy, peace, and gentleness. Sure, bad things happen to good people. Bad things happen to good people all the time, but you should never live your life in a state of fear. It is, having spent many, many years living in fear, having to process and deal with information even today. As I'm standing here talking to you right now, I have concerns just like everybody else. Look at the economy. Look at the political climate. Look at what's going on in the world today. So when I get in my vehicle and drive to the grocery store, look at the price of the things in the grocery store. So there's a lot of things to be aware of. But there is always a method or a way of escape. There's always a solution. Your job and my job is to make sure that we're operating in faith that is based on and backed up by cosmological, theological, and biological fact. If you are operating from a place of knowledge and gnosis, remember the guy says, the devil says, fear is his number one weapon. But drifting, which is the inability to operate in clarity, certainty, and confidence. Drifting means aimlessness. So the number one weapon on the planet is a feeling like I'm uncertain. Bam, he got you. Remember in the criminal justice system, all they got to do is introduce a smidget. You can't convict. Reasonable doubt. That's all. So the enemy operates the same way. The devil operates just like that's what the Bible says. Woe unto you lawyers. You took away the key of knowledge. The key of knowledge is reasonable doubt. Doubt creates distance. There's a delay between where you are and where you want to be, and that delay is doubt. The more doubt, the more delay. So when you remove the doubt, you remove the delay. There is a time delay that is a lack of certainty. In the Bible, the Syrian soldier, he comes to Jesus and he says his daughter is at home sick. And he says, I command an army. I know what it means to be an authority. Just say the word. You don't have to go there. He understood the power of operating in certainty. But certainty only comes from clarity. Since there is a lack of clarity in what you believe. You don't know. You got to believe, but you don't got to knowing. There's a lot of believers, but there's very few knowers. So I'm not saying that you need to know everything, but whatever it is that you're doing to generate, to attract, to manifest income, the ability to provide, you got to know that. Whatever it is, you got to be the best in the world at it. Whatever it is, I'm the best in the world at who I be. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I am a didactic teacher. I teach using etymology. I got 100 grand that I will give you if you can prove me wrong in the small little area of expertise. So I don't go out. I'm not talking about astrophysics. I'm not talking about brain surgery. I'm not talking about zoology. So I'm not talking about none of the issues. I'm only using my God-given gift. This is my lane. I'm born in the month of September. Everybody born in the month of September has a gift called discernment. We have a feeling. We read energy. We don't read people. So your energy shows up way before you do. Now, most people born in September, they don't listen to their inner voice. They listen to a reverend, a doctor, or a bishop. That's what we're talking about. The devil knows that. The devil knows that you like someone else more than you like yourself. Not you personally, but people you know. The devil knows that. The devil knows that you do not believe in you. Not you personally, but people you know. So the devil knows. That's what the guy said, man. The guy said he's interviewing the devil. And the devil is telling you why he got 98%, or I think he said 99% of humanity. Because he knows that people refuse to do what it says in the Gospel of Thomas. People refuse to look inside. Because we've been trained our entire life that we were born into. Remember, we're not saying that whether it is wrong or right. We're saying whether it is correct or incorrect. There's a difference between wrong and right and correct and incorrect. Everybody is talking about wrong and right. Everybody's talking about morality. Very few people are talking about causality. So I don't do morality. I do what causes morality. I do cause, just like Jesus did. I do causality. I don't do morality. See, when you understand the difference between causality and morality, bam, the devil ain't got no more, he got no power. The devil loses all his power because the devil is just you. The devil is your ego. The devil is fear. The devil is doubt. The devil is unbelief. The devil is all of the fruit of the flesh. So when you understand the fruit of the flesh, then you can't experience anything less than God's best. Because now you're operating in certainty. You're operating in a mental disposition that says, greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world. Now you're on a level where there's no devil. Because remember, what is the devil? The devil is nothing but doubt. The devil is nothing but reasonable doubt. I got to interject reasonable doubt into your brain. I got to get you to ponder. I got to get you to pause. That is delay. So this manifesting is the removal of doubt. That's the only manifesting. So how do you remove doubt? Clarity. But clarity of what? You got to have crystal clear clarity. I highly recommend that you have crystal clear clarity of self. That's why I do self reports. That's why I started. I started because I found God by going through self. So I've always had religion. I was born into it. I could not have it. We went to church, seemed like every day, at least to me. But I still was lost. I had no identity. I had no sense of whose and who I was. That made me afraid because I had to depend upon someone outside of the self. I wasn't self-sufficient, so I couldn't solve my own problems. Power, greatness is the ability to solve problems.
Person will reverse the present
That's all it
system of
is.
school teaching.
Let's wrap it up
and
right
you
quick.
might cause a death blow by allowing the students to become the instructors, using those who now serve as teachers only as guides to help the children establish ways and means of developing their own minds from within. When that time comes, the school teachers will no longer belong to my staff.
I was under the impression that the purpose of all schooling was to help children to think.
That may be the purpose of schooling, but the system in most of the schools of the world does not carry out the purpose. School children are taught not to develop and use their own minds, but to adopt and use the thoughts of others. This sort of schooling destroys the capacity for independent thought, except in a few rare cases where the children rely so definitely upon their own willpower that they refuse to allow others to do their thinking. Accurate thought is the business of my opposition, not mine.
What relationship, if any, has your opposition with the homes, the churches, and the schools? Your reply to this question should be interesting.
Here is where I make use of some more of my clever tricks. I cause it to appear that everything done by the parents, the school teachers, and the religious instructors is being done by my opposition. This diverts attention from me, while I manipulate the minds of the young. When religious instructors try to teach children the virtues of my opposition, they generally do so by frightening them with my name. That is all I ask of them. I kindle the flame of fear into proportions which destroy the child's power to think accurately. In the public schools, the teachers further my cause by keeping the children so busy cramming non-essential information into their minds, they have no opportunity to think accurately or to analyze correctly the things their instructors teach them.
Do you claim for your cause all those who are bound by the habit of drifting?
No. Drifting is only one of my tricks through which I take over the power of independent thought. Before a drifter becomes my permanent property, I must lead him on and ensnare him with another trick. I will tell you about this other trick after I finish describing my methods of converting people into drifters.
Do you mean you have a method by which you can cause people to drift so far away from self-determination that they can never save themselves?
Yes, a definite method, and it is so effective it never fails.
Do I understand you to claim your method is so powerful your opposition cannot reclaim those whom you have permanently ensnared through drifting?
I claim just that. Do you think I would control so many people if my opposition could prevent me? Nothing can stop me from controlling people except people themselves.
Wow.
Nothing can stop me except the power of accurate thought. People who think accurately do not drift on any subject. They recognize the power of their own minds. Moreover, they take over that power and yield it to no person or influence.
Boom.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it.
Sorry about that. So, in conclusion, let's wrap this up. As I've been saying for the last 30 years, when I first read this book, and the book Think and Grow Rich, and the book The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, and it totally transformed my life. As a black man in America, and these books are written by Caucasian gentlemen. Most of my mentors in the area of wealth have been Caucasian. And it's most of my clients who participated in purchased most of my products and services and information have been Caucasian. And it's interesting to me as a black man in America. And when I research and I talk to people and I try to connect with black people, colored people, melanated people, the inability for us to think for ourselves. Out of all the things that I talk about and out of everything that I do, and this is the God's honest truth, even myself, I'm still crippled and I still fight. And I'm aware though, I'm aware that my desire, I'm a people pleaser. So I'm a people, I want to be liked and I want to be loved at the detriment of my own economic success. And so anytime I start to experience an economic issue or concern, I know it's because of me sabotaging my own success, because I'm reaching out and I'm putting other people before myself, and I'm losing my ability to losing my own critical thinking skills. As long as I use my God-given purpose, destiny, my ability to think, the Bible talks about it, tells us to think on these things. It also tells us, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. We know that life and death is in the power of the tongue. And so we know that Hosea 4:6 tells us, my people perish for lack of knowledge. No, it could have said demons, devils. It could have said, the white man, the blue man. It could have said, Martians. It could have said the Nephilim. But it said people perish. People are destroyed because they don't have the ability to think. They can't process information correctly. The ability to process information, the ability to put facts together, to equate or come to a predetermined conclusion. See, there should be a formula or a system. So what I do now is not information. I do transformation. Because I know now the world is flooded. The whole market, that's why I had to rebrand and retrain. I used to be the information guy. I used to be a master teacher. Now it has to get into master transformationalist, which is why I'm going from MT33 to MT360, a complete closed circle, a loop, just like my life optimization chart up there on the wall. I don't know if you can see that up there. So, brothers and sisters, it's very important that wherever you're at in the world, whatever you're doing in life, you have to be able to get out of spookism. You have to be able to get out of fear. Again, I'm not telling you to ignore facts. I'm not telling you to take precautions. I'm not telling you to bury your head in the sand. But what I am saying, which is extremely, extremely important, we live in a world where the facts are being convoluted, where we got artificial intelligence now, where somebody can introduce a video. And is that video real? You have to really look at the video and see whether or not that video is real or not. I leave you with this little graph or this little chart that I created a little earlier that breaks down the devil's system. This is fear. Again, I took this from Outwitting the Devil. And when I went through it, the takeaway for me that was so powerful was drifting, lack of purpose, easily influenced, no control over your own life. That's a lot of melanated people that don't have purpose. They are easily talked into and out of stuff. They don't have the ability to think for themselves. And they're forced to live in disenfranchised environments in different places, or to take lower paying jobs because they have no control over their own life because of a lack of clarity of gifts. So drifting, again, is reinforced by what they call a hypnotic rhythm. This hypnotic rhythm, again, reinforces drifting. It is hard to break the pattern because habits become automatic, because patterns are power. So the pattern of drifting that's established because of a lack of purpose, because of the inability to think for oneself, and because of the inability to exercise self-control, leads to a lack of self-discipline. Because when you have discipline, you're able to master your habits, you're able to engage in consistent effort, and then you're able to control one's thoughts. Then by doing that, you're able to get out of this thing that we call fear. The big three: fear of poverty, fear of criticism, and then fear of death, which leads us over to critical thinking. The ability to think independently, the ability to ask questions, and the ability to avoid manipulation. Could you imagine if you just had those three attributes and characteristics? If you had the ability to think for yourself, if you had the ability to question the nature of your reality and to avoid being conned, being manipulated and bamboozled, then you would not be able to be put under the spell of the reverend, the doctor, and the bishop. They couldn't use fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of death, because then you'll be able to resist drifting. You'll be able to focus your attention on your purpose, which is your clear goal, or what I call your definite, or the book Think and Grow Rich call your definite purpose or definite chief aim. So when you're able to establish a definite chief aim, clear purpose, clarity of self, then you're able to get out of this fear. You're able to choose belief over doubt. You're able to get out of the paralyzing effect of fear, and you're able to build courage because now you're operating in crystal clear clarity of self, not crystal clear clarity of someone else. So again, brothers and sisters, you can pick up my book. Also pick up the book again on Outwitting the Devil. That's a free audio book. This is my book right here, Fear, the Devil's #1 Weapon. I delve a little bit deeper into the different types of fear. I also go into and piggyback off of Outwitting the Devil. So the book and an additional audio, it's $99. You know what to do. Just go to the website, masterteacher33.com, and click on the link that says donation. Man, I love you. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Sister Ellen, it's always great to see you, Sister Ellen. And my boy, Brother Brandon, man, good to see you. And everybody else that tuned in today, I love you. Appreciate you. We're going to see you at the top. God bless.